All right, guys. You go back and you look at the game, and sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. But there were some good things that were done in the game. I thought we improved in terms of our run defense overall. The quarterback had the 138-yard scramble that we can't allow to get out of there. But when they handed the ball to the runner, they basically averaged about 3 yards per carry. So I thought the run defense was better. I thought our defensive line overall played better in the game. I think Pete Warner helps our defense out a lot just in terms of, alignment assignment, things of that nature. The things that, we have to improve on is we got to eliminate, the explosive plays. Those have been something that's hurt us throughout the season. So we've got to do a better job of eliminating those things. We got to make some plays when we have some opportunities to make some plays. There's a couple of sack opportunities that I think, we had one potentially get a safety there towards the end of the game. Another one where we let the quarterback get out. I thought there was a couple times where we had opportunities to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand in the pocket, which could have been big plays in the game. And then, obviously the dropped interception there by Pete down on the goal line. I mean, those are just a handful of plays that, we've got to be able to make those plays when we get those opportunities. Offensively, we actually did some good things. I thought we ran the ball better in the game. I think we averaged 5.5 yards a carry or something like that running the football. So I thought that was better in the game. We had, 15, 10-plus yard plays in the game, which is the most that we've had in any game this season. So there were some good things. The issue that we've got to get corrected is we've got to be more consistent. We do some good things, and then like offensively, we'll move the ball, and then as we get to that midfield area, we'll have some penalties and things that are going to knock us out and knock us into longer yardage situations, and we're not able to overcome those right now. So the consistency in our play, the details in our play, I think those are the areas that we've got to continue to work to improve on.
So Alvin, after the game, mentioned the details, just like what you said. I mean, who's that on? Is that on players, coaches?
Well, I think it's a combination. I think us as coaches, we got to be more detail oriented in terms of what we're teaching, how we're wanting guys to do things, holding guys accountable to doing those things, the little things, the right way. And then it's incumbent upon the players to focus in on those details and be able to execute those details. So I think it's a combination of things, yeah.
Yeah, when you see these penalties, especially the pre-snap penalties, is that something you're seeing in practice and then it's just carried over to the game, or?
No. In particular in this last game, we had one pre-snap, false start penalty where, we got a little messed up on the cadence. Everybody kind of got off on the cadence, and the center was a little late with the snap. That was the one pre-snap penalty. I think the bigger issue for us really kind of boils down to the technique in our blocking. We're getting our hands outside the framework way too much, and I think that's an area that we've got to improve on. That's where some of those holding calls came from.
What's your reaction to a lot of the criticism that Nathan Shepard has been getting over the personal foul on Justin Herbert?
Yeah, I think it's not accurate. Here's a guy that's trying to wrap the quarterback up. He's on the ground. He has no idea whether the quarterback has the ball or not. He's just trying to bring the quarterback down to the ground. So there was nothing malicious about that play. It's a guy that's trying to make a play. I went back and looked at that play again after, seeing the comments, and I don't agree with that.
Any updates on some of the injured guys? Those are quite a few.
Well, I guess probably two updates. Bub Means has a high ankle sprain, so that's going to be a time missed injury. I'm not sure, exactly what the we had, Lattimore with a hamstring, Kendry with a hamstring. Not sure exactly what that's going to be yet. Derek Carr had a throwing session again today, looked good in the throwing session. I would expect him to be back out at practice on Wednesday then we'll go from there and see, what his availability is for this week, but I'm optimistic about it.
Is Juwan Johnson in concussion protocol? I believe he was being checked for a concussion.
I think, well, anytime you're checked during the game, you have to come back in today and but it's not the typical protocol, where they're out and they have to go through multiple steps, he was asymptomatic today when he came in, so he's cleared and good to go.
Are you pretty optimistic that Derek can go Sunday, or just kind of wait to see?
I am optimistic, yes.
I know you mentioned inconsistency, but can you think of any other explanation for it? You get 3 of your best offensive players back. You average 5.6 yards per rush. You had, I think you said, a season high in 10-plus yard plays, and the offense only comes up with 6 points.
Well, part of that is penalties. When you have penalties that put you back at 2nd and 19, and we were not able to overcome those things. I think, Kendra had a nice run, down in their territory. You would get the ball down on the 25-yard line. It's going to be 1st and 10, and ends up being, like 2nd and 19 from the 45-yard line, 50-yard line, something like that. So those are things that for us right now, those are hard to overcome. And I think in particular when you've got young quarterbacks, it's hard to overcome those type of mistakes.
I was going to ask you that exact thing. When you have a young quarterback, you see some of the inconsistencies. Is that just comes with reps?
Part of the growing process of playing that position. I think it's the hardest position to play. There's so much that's on your plate. There's so many decisions that you got to make. And so, when you get put in those situations, as a young quarterback, I think that's putting a lot on those guys to have to be able to overcome those things. And so, and look, I think, we've dealt with some of the growing pains of that with the young quarterbacks, and yet you see a lot of things that they do well. Both those players, I thought, did some good things in the game, but you also see some inconsistency and some young mistakes.
Yeah, in particular, I was thinking of the synchronicity with the receiver and the quarterback, maybe just being a little bit off, right?
Yeah, and that's time on task. Those guys haven't gotten a ton of reps, with all of those guys, and we've had some guys in and out of the lineup at the receiver position. So, that adds to the timing issues.
How would you evaluate in 3 games now with Spencer how he's played?
Young developmental quarterback that I'm encouraged and excited about, but not quite there yet. He needs a little more time in the oven. A little more time to grow, a little more time to develop, and that'll come. But and I would say the same about Jake Hayner. I think him coming in, he's done some good things. He's worked extremely hard. I thought there were some things that I was encouraged about, and yet it hadn't been quite what we needed it to be able to win some games.
There's Alvin talked about players having a meeting. Is that something you'd like to see as far as them taking the responsibility?
Well, look, obviously you want your players to be accountable to what we need to do to be able to win. I think this is not a player thing. It's not a coach thing. It's an us thing, and I think we all together have to do a better job.
Anything on the miss that Blake had on his field goal?
I think he just pushed it, and that, I said it in the team meeting today. That gets back to the consistency, right? Every other kick was you couldn't put it any more down the middle, and that one he just pushed, and so gets back to when you have an opportunity to make a play, we've got to be able to make the play, and so I think those are the things that we're dealing with right now.
You mentioned yesterday about getting in and out of the huddle, the urgency there, things like that. And it was something you were going to kind of look back at over the course of this week. Now that you've gotten a little bit more time with the tape, did you see anything different there than what you thought you saw during the game?
Well, you don't really see it necessarily on the tape, but I know what I saw in person, and I think we got to do a better job from a coaching standpoint of, making sure our guys know, exactly where to be aligned and exactly, what to do on each and every play. I think we can help them in that regard. And then, I think, kind of gets back, that's another part of being the youthful quarterback, the communication in the huddle, all those things, making sure guys are on the right page. And then when it's not, how do we get it fixed? I think those are all things that you have to grow and you have to learn from.
So is it safe to say that if Derek does return this week against the team that y'all already seen, and guys that did come back this week as well, like penalties will be less than?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be our expectation. That would be our hope. I think that's what we got to be, planning to clean up. Yeah. But whether Derek plays or not really doesn't have a whole lot to do with, our fundamentals and technique in terms of blocking and making sure we get our hands inside and all those kinds of things.
Was Marquez Valdez-Scantling close? Did you all just not feel comfortable playing?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. We felt really good about EQ. He's been a part of the program, and I thought he went in and played well. In particular in what he did in the run game in terms of his blocking, his effort. The ball really didn't come his way, but I thought he did some good things in the game. And so, we'll evaluate where we're at this week, and we'll continue to try to get Marquez, ramped up and ready to go.
Rico Payton during the preseason was a guy that stood out on the defensive side, but what have you seen from him, or how would you highlight sort of what he's done on the special team side? He seems to stand out.
Yeah, look, I think he's done some good things. I think, like a lot of these young players that we continue to talk about, there's a lot of good things that you see, and yet there's some young mistakes that, we've got to try to, eliminate. But I would say overall what we've gotten out of Rico Payton from a special team standpoint when he's had to go in and play on defense, I think that's all been pretty positive in my mind.
How did Kool-Aid do?
There was a lot of good, and there was some not so good. I think, he gave up the one fade ball where the guy, made the play. He didn't play the coverage exactly right on the one deep ball, down their sideline. But look, there were some positive moments in the game in terms of how he played. But I think, he would look back at that game and tell you the same thing. I think there's some things that he needs to do better, and I think he'll be better as he gets to play more.
The yards after the catch, you all are, I think, leading the league in right now defensively, allowing those. Is there anything in particular?
Well,
is it just missed tackles, combination of things?
Yeah, well, look, we missed a tackle on the sideline there on the long 60-yard, touchdown play. I mean, obviously, anytime you give up a lot of yards after catch, angles and tackling usually have a part in that. And so, I think we got to do a better job of taking angles to the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's never really been an issue.
No,
Through the years. That's
it hasn't.
strength.
It hasn't, but it's an area that we've got to improve on now. All right, guys, thanks.